great time to go for a drive or a walk and see all the pretty leaves changing color. You may be wondering what makes leaves change color anyway. And why don't coniferous trees change color? Well, let's break down the science of it all.
So here we have a collection of different colored leaves off the ground, and also I grabbed some pine needles for funsies, and I'm going to do an experiment with them. So I'm going to crush up the leaves. Ideally you should do this in the blender, but I didn't want to have to wash my blender 9, 10, 11, 12 times, so laziness prevailed. I also crushed up some pine needles. Tried to use a mortar and pestle, but you know. Each color in a different beaker. So I have all my leaves, and then I'm going to add some rubbing alcohol to them and stir them until the alcohol changes color. So after I mixed rubbing alcohol with all of them, I covered them in plastic wrap. Added hot water to the pan and let it sit for 50 minutes. While it sat, I cut some coffee filters into strips. While my leaves were sitting in the hot water, I also gave them a little stir about every 10 minutes. So after 50 minutes of sitting there, I added my coffee filters and let them sit for an hour. And I got a little bit of absorption. And then I put strips of coffee filters into the same containers and left them overnight. And you can see that I have a much starker contrast. You can see in a lot of the leaves is that they only have one color that's visible even when you spread out the pigments. After I cleaned out one of the beakers, I also did some romaine lettuce since I didn't have any fresh green leaves. The romaine lettuce, you can see that the colors separate out. You have some green and you have a good amount of yellow on there as well. With the pine needles, you don't see as much yellow.
An interesting thing about color is that you have to think of what colors it's absorbing and what colors it's emitting. So if it is absorbing blue-green light, it will appear yellow to our eyes.
Leaves are green because of the pigments inside them. The main pigments in chlorophyll are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. You can see the wavelengths of light they absorb best and the ones they reflect. So they'll absorb blue and purple, and they'll absorb red and orange, but they don't absorb the green and the yellow so much. So those are the ones they reflect back. Notice these are the carotenoids, which are the yellow colors that you tend to start to see in the fall. You usually can't see those during the spring and summer. Chlorophyll is one type of pigment that we find in the leaf. It's the heavy lifter. It's the one who's really doing the photosynthesis. So you have your leaf, in your leaf you have plant cells, and in that you have chloroplasts. And the chloroplasts themselves, the actual pigments inside them.
In the spring and summer, leaves are green because chlorophyll uses light to produce sugar using water and carbon dioxide.
Most people have learned the chemical formula for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide and water and sunlight makes sugar and oxygen. Water goes into the leaf gets carbon dioxide through the stoma and gets energy from the sun. Then glucose leaves the leaf to feed the plant. Yay! So chlorophyll is a pigment in the leaves that most of us have heard of, but there are other pigments in leaves too. Carotenoids are in the leaves as well. They're the yellow, orange, and brown pigments in the leaves. They're also found in pumpkins, corn, carrots, flamingos, and shrimp. Anthocyanins are red and purple pigments also found in purple cabbage, cherries, and blueberries. Usually chlorophyll overpowers these pigments because making food for the plant is the #1 job. Food's my #1 job too. So less sunlight tells the tree that winter's coming. So the sunlight goes down, the tree's like, oh, winter's coming, save the energy. So the tree wants to stay alive all winter, so it's going to conserve its energy.
I'm all about saving energy too.
Trees work hard to make leaves, and they don't want to waste all of those nutrients, especially the phosphorus and nitrogen that they worked hard to acquire over the spring and summer. That's why trees recycle the nutrients in their leaves before they drop the leaves. Basically, they break apart the whole photosynthesis gizmo from the inside out in order to recoup the phosphorus and nitrogen that went into the leaf. These are stored in twigs and branches until the next spring. When this disassembly starts, however, chlorophyll molecules are still absorbing the sun's light. So this energy reacts with oxygen, goes crazy and starts destroying other parts of the leaf that are transferring nutrients back to the tree. Oh no! To keep this from happening, leaves break down the chlorophyll into less dangerous molecules, which are usually transparent or yellow. This allows the other pigments to not be overshadowed and ta-da! They shine through. Sometimes leaves will go the extra mile, or the extra kilometer, and make new pigments to shade the chlorophyll from sunlight until it can be broken down. These are called anthocyanins. These are the red pigments that we see and that we talked about earlier. Coniferous or evergreen trees have small, tough needles, and the water mixes with natural sugars, lowering the freezing point. The needles are also covered with a waxy substance called cutin, which traps moisture and protects the needle.
The changing color of the leaves shows that you can learn from just about anything, even things that may be commonplace to you. Science is everywhere.
Go.
Wondering what makes... voice correct. Go. You can't see. Ooh. Now it sounds dumb.
I need a towel.
Okay, hold on. So a leaf of I forgot what I was gonna say.
Tree work hard.
The changing and the changing.
Piece of poop.
Water from water.